right, so last year I made a video talking about how Klutch Sports has infiltrated the media space and catapults guys like Shannon Sharpe and Nick Wright in exchange for spreading the false narrative that LeBron James is better than Jordan and Kobe. And here we have yet another guy who has been compromised by Klutch. This is Jason Timpf, who runs the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel. Listen to him before Klutch.
Now, I have MJ over LeBron all time because of the simple fact that while both players did dominate their peers, MJ dominated his peers to a greater extent, a significantly greater extent than LeBron James did.
And now, after Klutch.
My take for why I think LeBron is the GOAT. My take for why I think LeBron is the GOAT.
Look at how this guy has to look away from the camera as he says this because he knows he is lying, and avoiding eye contact is an indicator of lying or embarrassment, and in this case, it's obviously both. And if you want to know how to spot a Klutch plant, here are 3 signs. 1, they're doing a podcast with Nick Wright. Nick Wright will not do pods with anyone who would debate him over Jordan and LeBron because he knows for a fact he would get destroyed, which would expose him as a fraud. 2, if you see a podcast with this V sign, that big V stands for The Volume, which is a company that Klutch Sports has compromised. That's why anytime you see a podcast under the Volume umbrella, you will see that they all say the same thing about LeBron being better than Jordan, which you know every single one of them is lying. 3, and the 3rd sign is the way they go out of their way to minimize Kobe Bryant.
Once there is nobody benefited more from Jordan being the standard and assumed GOAT than Kobe.
Because if they manipulate viewers to rank LeBron ahead of Kobe, they can take that next step into ranking LeBron over Jordan. But if the viewer believes that Kobe is better than LeBron, then they can't convince audiences that Bron is better than Jordan. So they first have to cancel out Kobe before they can compare LeBron to Jordan, when in reality, anyone who has followed the NBA for the last 2 to 3 decades knows that LeBron is clearly not better than Jordan or Kobe.
LeBron fans hate me, and those of you guys who follow me on Twitter know this because, I am critical of LeBron when he goes through stretches where he doesn't play to where he's capable of. I am critical of LeBron when he makes mistakes, just like I am with any other star. I talk about LeBron's career, the good and the bad, instead of just spewing propaganda like so many of his fans do.
A few moments later.
My take for why I think LeBron is the GOAT.
Yeah, now he suddenly doesn't mind spreading propaganda since making a deal with Klutch Sports. Listen to the things that he used to say about Jordan that he now refuses to acknowledge.
Here's the reality. MJ won 6 championships in 8 years. No player in the history of basketball has dominated the league the way he did during the 90s.
Actually, it was 6 championships in 7 years. You can't count that year that Jordan was away the entire season to play baseball.
He was so much better than everybody that it was insulting to even throw another name in the conversation alongside Michael Jordan. That's how much better he was than everybody. It was Michael Jordan on the top tier of stars, a gap, and then everyone else.
But Nick Wright will have you believe that LeBron easily had the most dominant run in NBA history. And now that Jason has sold out the Klutch, he sits and nods in agreement. Despite the fact we just saw he previously went into great detail about how Jordan was the most dominant. Check this out.
He is inarguably the best young player ever, the best teenager, the best early 20s. It's inarguably LeBron. He is inarguably the best old guy ever. Age 35 and older, every single year, the best year ever is LeBron. In the middle of that, he had arguably, this is arguable, arguably the greatest 8-year stretch any player's ever had in the history of the league. He arguably has the highest peak of any player ever. The greatest 8-year stretch any player's ever had in the history of the league.
Here's the reality. MJ won 6 championships in 8 years. No player in the history of basketball has dominated the league the way he did during the 90s.
The greatest 8-year stretch any player's ever had in the history of the league.
So yeah, you can clearly see this guy sold out. He started out as a basketball enthusiast and now has become what he hated, a shill that is paid to spread propaganda. So what exactly was it, Jason, over the last 2 to 3 years that made you alter your position and propel LeBron over Jordan as the GOAT? Was it when LeBron got swept by Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets in the 2023 Western Conference Finals? Or was it in 2024 when he lost to the Nuggets again there in the first round in 5 games? Or better yet, were you finally swayed in 2025 when LeBron gagged all over himself against Minnesota in round 1 and scored a grand total of 5 points in the fourth quarter when the season was on the line? I actually made a video where I made a mashup of Jordan's finals highlights versus LeBron's finals highlights. If you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link on the outro. You should definitely check it out and see for yourself firsthand the stark difference between MJ and LeBron in the clutch. And then you will clearly see how these guys working for Klutch Sports are liars and manipulators serving an agenda. Okay, so here is another clip of Jason going into detail about Jordan's dominance. And then 2 years later, watch how Nick says the exact opposite thing. And Jason just sits there and nods along in agreement, even though it totally contradicts everything that he used to believe. Again, I ask, Jason, what changed your mind?
So, like, again, that level of dominance, I think it's glossed over a lot in these debates. It's not just it's not just 6 titles to 4. It's 6 titles in 8 years. It's unassailable. There's nobody that could even remotely consider themselves on the same plane of existence as MJ over a decade.
He had arguably, this is arguable, arguably the greatest 8-year stretch any player's ever had in the history of the league. He arguably has the highest peak of any player ever.
MJ three-peated twice and won 6 titles in 8 years. That's what sets him apart in terms of dominance, in my opinion. But 6 and 8 is 6 and 8. And that has to mean something. In a league where the Larry O.B. is the whole reason why we do this, he won 6 of them in 8 years.
Show me the money.
My take for why I think LeBron is the GOAT. Nick, this was incredible. I had a blast. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time. I had a ton of fun talking to you, man.
No, I appreciate it. And I don't know that I've ever said this to someone on the air, so please leave this in. And I didn't plan to say this. You're a tremendous broadcaster.